Hey everyone, Jason here, architect working in Toronto. This is a four-part series to talk about how to become an architect. There's the first three, which is education, experience, examination. Those are kind of a grouping. The fourth one is starting your own business. So follow along, this is part one, and we're going to talk about education. So this video is really crafted for if you're in high school. And you like a bunch of subjects and you're thinking about architecture as a profession. So I would say you might be well suited for this profession. If you like math, if you like science, English, if you like arts, music, some sports, you have to be relatively well-rounded for this profession, especially because the walks of life that you'll meet, the people that you'll meet, and you're trying to design for will have interests in many different things outside of what you're used to or exposed to. So certainly if you're thinking about architecture and you're like, I'm a math savant, this might not be the profession for you. You might be better as a mathematician or a scientist or something like that. Architecture is very much it's a social profession. And being really good at one subject is not really the key element, the key ingredient for this job. You have to be a jack of all trades, master of none. Whew. And so for instance, I was never great at math, but I was certainly in the math club in high school. It's like the top 25% of the kids were in there. I was at the bottom of that. I was the last name on that rating. Wasn't great at it, but I enjoyed it. It's hard, but it's like kind of fun at the same time, solving math problems. So if you're in high school and you're looking to go into architecture, you're probably looking at different programs, different universities in the province. This is applicable mainly specifically to Ontario, but across Canada, it's pretty similar. Across North America, it's also pretty similar in terms of a system. Do your research. Each university has their own mission statement. And whether that is they are more theoretically driven and they want to talk about architectural theory or, that side of things, or they're practical driven, so teaching the software, teaching you to draft, to model, to do those things. Some schools are about a certain typology. Some schools are like, we are heavy focused on residential design, dwelling in place, people living in a home kind of thing. Do your research, because the student should pair well with the program in theory. But that takes me back to a point where if you're in high school probably, it is doing yourself a disservice to have a strong opinion about architecture at this juncture in your life. I think it's more important that you get excited when you see certain spaces, you get excited when you see certain things, but certainly your opinion will be formed by the schooling, by when you go through formal training. And despite whatever high school teacher teaches you in terms of architecture, their theories on architecture, it's a far cry from actually going through the post-secondary system where these are other architects teaching you, faculty members teaching you their beliefs on design, on architecture and things like that. High school teachers are just people too, same as faculty. These are all humans, and you might be impressionable to a particular high school student, a high school teacher that says, you should go into architecture because of these reasons. I recommend you talk to the universities, because when a teacher has gone through their education, that was a few decades ago or however long ago. You really should be talking to the universities. So do your research. That having been said, you will need a portfolio. You'll need something to present in front of each school. And I highly recommend, don't draw buildings. The point of going to architecture school is to learn how to draw buildings and how to represent things. Don't draft buildings. I recommend you go to visual arts and you paint and you do photography and you draw and do sculpture. These things are more valuable as a high school student than to try to draw a building without actual proper formal education, proper teaching. It's kind of like learning a sport, but learning it from the wrong coach. You want to learn the sport from the right teachings so that you're not going to injure yourself, or you're not going to get into bad habits doing certain things, or have a formed opinion about something that might be ill-informed. So I recommend find an art teacher as an extracurricular, or if your high school has it, go to art class. Sign up for the art class for grades 10, 11, 12, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever it is now, because then you're producing something for a portfolio to enter into school. Not everyone is in this position, but some families are in the position to travel. If you're in high school and your family has the means to travel abroad, or even go to another province, or even to go to the United States or wherever it is that's close by, but will give you a glimmer into another culture, that is a very good thing for you to experience as a budding architect. Certainly, like if you can get to Europe, or you can get to South America or Asia, or other parts of the world, you'll be exposed to such a vast a new world of culture, of living. It'll really broaden your horizon as a person, and that is really good going into architecture school, is having the exposure. You haven't formed an opinion about it, but you've been exposed to it, and that's quite a good thing. Then when you do your studies in school and post-secondary school, whatever university, you'll see something and be like, I was near there, or I saw that building, and that was an experience. Those things really really shape and form your education moving into post-secondary school. So there's portfolio. Some universities have an interview process, so you have to sit down and talk about your life for architecture, or there's a series of questions or something like that. Some schools have an aptitude test, or some kind of a application test, some kind of intake test. Mainly those are just hurdles to make sure that you're not out to lunch. You can write, you can speak, you can read. Don't be too worried about that, and there's not much you can prepare for that. It's just being an open book and answering honestly, because what the university is trying to do is find the right student for the school. So it's a bit of like, God forbid if you don't get in, maybe it's not actually meant for you. Maybe architecture school isn't the right fit. And if you do get in, maybe it's a really good fit. Maybe it's like, this is the profession for you. Don't be disappointed if things don't work out. Architecture is not for everyone. But if it does work out, I can talk a bit about what architecture school is like. So for me, the first day was Disney World. I walked in and it was incredible. I met all these people like-minded who enjoyed many different subjects, who had an interest in many different things and more. And so that was great. It was awesome. And every project, every subject, every course that I took, I was like, this is awesome, because you're learning all these new things, whether it's structures, which is physics, the math side of things, whether it's graphics, learning how to draw, learning how to represent buildings, how to design things, whether it's materials, learning about how materials come together, or the characteristics of certain materials, whether it's detailing, how to draw, the building, everything. It was awesome. And then there's a big chunk called studio. For my school, it was worth 4 courses, this one course called studio. And the idea of that is you bring all these new skills together into a project, a studio project that you're working on. And that's meant to formalize or bring together all these things that you're learning into some kind of a design, which is what we do on a daily basis. We are putting all our skills together into this one project in the working world. So, but as much as it was Disney World, for me, it was also late nights, a lot of hard work, pushing yourself beyond what you thought you could go, where you could go. Socially, like we went to of course I went to parties, you know, some crazy nights, but at the same time, those are just life experiences that you are gaining. And then you make the best bonds. In my undergrad, the friends from my undergrad are still some of my closest friends today. And because you go through this kind of grueling gauntlet, there's a shared experience. So certainly that's a big part of the culture of school, is these late nights, but creating strong bonds throughout the rest of your life. And that's the undergrad side of things. I'm going to talk about the masters. So to become an architect, you also need a master's of architecture. This is one path. So there are many different, there's a few different paths. This one, I'm talking about the most kind of traditional route. You do a 4-year undergrad kind of program, and then a 2 or 3 year master's program. The idea for the undergrad program is for you to gain skills, to learn about drafting, to learn about these things. Architectural theory, you know, modern architecture, contemporary, postmodern, deconstructivists, all these things in history and time. You're getting these skills. The idea for the masters, in my opinion, is to hone in on these skills, to get really good at these things, and then to craft your belief system on architecture. What do you believe, and then projecting that into your career in the future. And you get some really cool theories that come out of a master's program. You get some really interesting projects that come out of a master's program. But it's less about learning new skills and more about honing, about like getting really into getting really into your craft, into to what you believe in this profession. Because ultimately, that's what we do. We project into the future. This is what we think living will be like in the future. This is what we believe sports will be like in the future, or learning, or whatever it is. Those are big questions. And that's why there's an undergrad where you're learning skills, masters where you're honing in on those belief systems. And there's a bunch of, you go through exams, you write essays, you do projects, you design things, you take photographs, you do photography. There's all sorts of things that you learn in undergrad and masters of this obtaining of skills in your education to becoming an architect. That's it for now. That's a snippet of that world. Please follow along. The next video will be about the experience working in a firm. What's that like? Thanks for tuning in. See you in the next one. Cheers. Hopefully this works. We'll see.